Now the ocean currents. So the ocean currents are undergoing these massive movements, those big circles, which are the large circular ocean currents. They are called gyres. Okay, some is counterclockwise, some is clockwise, and each one of them have a name. So our climate is hugely impacted by those ocean currents. When you think about climates, most of the people at this point think about what's happening in the air, right, in the sky. And this is the beginning to understand the climate change. You have to link the climate to the water also, which makes a lot of sense. And this massive mixing of temperature and the salt has a very significant impact of the heat and the nutrient redistribution on the planet. In the class, I would watch this video with everybody. Here I cannot. If I display the video here on the YouTube, probably concerned about their copyrights. But please watch this video. I believe it's only about like 4 minutes. But after watch this video, you'll have a very good comprehension of all the concepts we're going to talk about in the ocean currents. Now, I assume you watch that video and come back. If not, please do. I just quickly summarize. I'm not going to go through everything. So I just highlight the major concepts of Coriolis effect. What is Coriolis effect? When the Earth spinning counterclockwise, if you watch from here down, it's counterclockwise. It bends the wind, okay, and bends the ocean currents. That's the phenomenon we call Coriolis effect. And please do read your textbook. Here I cannot go through everything, but please do. And that helps you to understand this. And that is the reason of the generation of the gyres, right? So now, quickly to summarize, those ocean currents is like the massive conveyor belts. For example, the North Atlantic gyre, that bring the heat all around the world. It affects the polar region, also affect the Europe, because this area is much colder. So without this gyre, the climate on this land will become much hotter and much colder in European area. And the surface currents, that's usually the top 400 meters of the water. And that is tremendously affected by the wind, the air movement. And the deep currents, that's more affected by the temperature and the salt content of the water. Colder and more saline water has greater density and will sink below warmer and less saline water. We just mentioned about this because to understand all the concepts, you have to imagine again and again the warm, less salty water on the top and the more saltier and the cold water at the bottom. The air is the same way. The colder air usually sinks down to the ground and the warm air will rise up. So this will affect the heat and the nutrients redistribution. And the Gulf Stream, that's a current passed by the Gulf of Mexico and Canada and will go around the northern Europe in a thermohaline conveyor. What is a thermohaline conveyor? Thermohaline means it's affected by the temperature and the content of the salt. That's why it's called thermohaline. That's why I want you to watch that video so you can have a better understanding of this concept. So basically, the wind, the temperature, and the salt content will affect the movement of the ocean current in a massive way. This is illustration of how the Gulf Stream works, right? It affects the polar region, it affects the European area. It also help to balance the heat on the coastal area of United States. Here, I want to mention a important concept, which is called upwelling. That's the opposite of the normal way we'll talk about. We talk about the normal. What is the normal? It's the warm, less salty water on the top and the cold, saltier water at the bottom. And upwelling is opposite way. So the upwelling is where the ocean currents draw up the colder water from the deep. Why? It's not a normal phenomenon, but in some years, okay, it does happen. And we're going to explain why that happened later in this chapter. And that causes redistribution of nutrients, also the temperature. Now we're talking about the abnormal current movement, that is El Nino and the La Nina. So El Nino is a brother, La Nina is a sister. They are opposite, okay? If the El Nino is southern oscillation, I would not call La Nina the northern oscillation, but you can imagine that is a completely opposite way of El Nino. I want you to watch the video I post here. I try to post it on the D2L also. So after you watch this 6-minute video, you will have a better understanding of El Nino and La Nina, because that's like a blackboard and it's like emotion. It explains much better than I draw a picture here and record my own video. So basically, what is El Nino? That's a periodic changes in normal ocean currents that can significantly weaken or shift the direction of the trade winds and ocean currents every 2 to 10 years. And that's the reason to cause the upwelling. Now, to use this as one example, okay, so the orange, red color means warm, and the blue and the purple means very cold. If we look at, just compare these two pictures, we can see this is a screenshot. I would say this is a screenshot of some time of the year, right? And you can see the cold current along this area. And in the El Nino years, it's a warm current here. That's why I said La Nina and El Nino, they are opposite. And the La Nina, what is La Nina? La Nina is a stronger ocean currents. So typically, in this pattern, this area will be experiencing the cold weather, right? Cold and dry weather. In La Nina years, it's even colder and even drier. And El Nino is opposite. In El Nino years, this area will be very humid with a lot of precipitation. So they are going to experience so typically, imagine you are a person living in this area, okay? And in certain season, it's supposed to get cold and dry. But in El Nino years, this region will be humid with a lot of precipitation. So you are going to experience flooding, more hurricanes. In the winter, there's a tremendous amount of snow. Yes, something like that. So this is a very brief explanation. So go back and watch that video, and that help you to understand what is La Nina and what is El Nino. If you watch your Annenberg video at this point of the lecture, that will greatly help you to understand those abnormal ocean current movement. Also, you'll get to know how scientists discover this abnormal pattern, which I think is pretty brilliant.